lost, spiritually speaking, and then to be found. We can get lost in a lot of different ways. Sometimes it comes about because of a personal crisis. Maybe there's a loss of a loved one in grief. Maybe there's a job loss, divorce, a trauma of some kind. It doesn't always have to be dramatic, and it doesn't always have to be necessarily something that's bad that happens to you. Sometimes retirement can bring about a sense of feeling lost. It's often around a shift in identity. And sometimes being lost can come on really, really slowly. Sort of like a slow creeping depression, but it's not necessarily a medical type of depression. It can feel a little bit like maybe your life has taken a detour and you didn't realize that you're on this detour and now you're lost. It's a sense of being disconnected in a very real and profound way from your source of being, however you define that, whatever it is that grounds you. And it's when nothing, whether it's emotional or physical or mental, nothing can meet your needs. You just feel lost, unsure of who you are and where you're going in life. In fact, I've been really struck by the fact that there isn't a word in the English language other than lost that describes this feeling. I mean, ennui is kind of there a little bit, being in a funk, but that sort of, implies that it's a short time period. Spiritlessness, we just don't really have a word for it other than lost. And if you haven't felt it yourself, chances are someone you love has. Because I think it's part of a very human condition to feel lost. Now, how many of you know this movie? All right. I'm guessing most people know Groundhog's Day. This is one of my favorite all-time movies. It stars Bill Murray and Andie MacDowell. It's a story of a weatherman, Phil Connors, who relives February 2nd, Groundhog Day, over and over and over again. And he's the only one who notices this, right? And there's no explanation in this movie as to why this is happening to him. But he learns, obviously, some very powerful lessons along the way. Now, immediately at the beginning of the movie, we learn that Phil is lost. He's dissatisfied with his life. He wants to do the real news. He's a weatherman, right? But instead he has to go to Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania for Groundhog Day and do this fluff piece on the groundhog that pokes its head out and predicts the weather. And Phil does this piece every year, and he's just dreading it. So what does he do? He lashes out by looking down on people. He calls Punxsutawney people hicks. These people who want to do this are stupid. He's generally hating his life and distancing himself from other people by being rude and not participating in any activities. Now Rita, played by Andie MacDowell, is his new producer, and there's Larry the cameraman. They go with him to Punxsutawney. Now Rita is the opposite of Phil. She's open, she's kind, she embraces whatever life throws at her. She's in that found place. She knows who and where she is in life and is enjoying it. So have you ever felt like Phil maybe a little bit? Felt lost, disconnected from your life? Unsure of where you're going or even who you are? Because this has happened to me actually a few times in my life. One big time in particular. It's no fun, it seriously is no fun at all. It's a really hard thing to go through. And you feel very alone. Because we don't know how to talk about this, right? And so we kind of suffer alone. Throughout this whole period of the time that I was lost, I was talking to her years later, talking to my best friend about it. She said, I had no idea you were going through this. Because I didn't know how to talk to her about it. So the worst time I felt lost was before I discovered my call to ministry. It was really strange, right? Like I had the house, I had the great career, I was making the money, I had everything that you're supposed to have. I had a dog, which was, important for me. But still, I felt like something's wrong, something's off. What's wrong with me? Why do I feel this way? Because there's no logic to feeling this way. So like Phil, I began to be a little self-destructive and to isolate myself. This was, in a sense, my way of screaming, I'm lost. Because that's what you do when you're lost. You start panicking, even if you don't realize you're panicking, right? You're pretty desperate. Anything to not feel this way that you can't understand. So we start screaming. And this can come out in a lot of different ways. We might be grouchy and irritable, snarky, like Phil. I found myself feeling a lot of guilt and shame for feeling this way because I didn't feel engaged in my work, even though I was doing the work, but I just didn't feel engaged in it. There's self-destructive behaviors. For me, it was playing lots of video games. And then those could be even worse. I mean, I ate a lot of my weight came in that time period. And you can even blame others. You can push people away. And the other thing that we do is we isolate ourselves. Because we don't know how to explain this, it's something that's so internal, we turn away from our loved ones. It can feel really vulnerable to talk about feeling lost. It feels like it might be some kind of weakness in us. Something's wrong with me. We don't know how to express that. And if it's left unchecked, this can lead to things like despair and depression, clinical depression. In the movie Groundhog Day, Phil is forced to confront his dissatisfaction. He's reliving the same day over and over again. He can't get away from it. At first, he has this kind of anything goes attitude, right? He does all these self-destructive behaviors. So he robs people. He punches Ned Ryerson, if you remember Ned, the obnoxious insurance salesman guy, which part of us felt actually really good about that. But he skips out on his job. He eats and drinks whatever he wants. He manipulates women to go to bed with him. I mean, he is at his absolute worst. He figures anything goes. I can do whatever I want. He even kidnaps the groundhog at one point in desperation, thinking to blame this poor animal for his plight. And finally, he even resorts to suicide over and over again, trying all these different ways to kill himself, but none of it works, because suicide never works. It always causes more pain. So he wakes up each day at the same time, 6 a.m., to the lighthearted song on the radio, I Got You Babe by Sonny and Cher. Nothing changes about this day except him. Now, throughout history, mystics have talked about the state of being lost. They call it the dark night of the soul. And for those mystics, the answer to feeling lost was to be found by God, to reconnect with that source that for them was God. Or you could think of it as what Jake Morrill said in our reading, singing out to entice love back into your life. But before we get to that, even singing out, we have to realize that we're thoroughly lost. It's only after going through all these crazy behaviors that Phil begins to accept his plight. He even convinces, to one extent, Rita that what's going on, she's sort of bought into it, but he still doesn't know what to do. He's in that barren time, when you're sort of giving up, like, I've tried everything I can think of. Now there's really no more avoidance. It's not fun anymore. There's no self-destruction that you can do. They don't offer that momentary solace that you're trying to get at. And this is really the loneliest time, because there's nothing to fight against, nothing really to do, at least you don't think. In fact, Phil at one point has relived February 2nd so many times, he's gotten to know everyone in the town really, really well, that he thinks he might be a god. After all, he's omniscient, he knows everything about everybody. He thinks, well, maybe that's what God is. God's just someone who's been around for a really long time. Now, for me, I had to accept that something was going on, that I needed to face this. I was miserable, even if I didn't know why. I wasn't engaging with work or my friends. I was avoiding with video games and food, none of which were helping. So I didn't know where I was or where I was going. So I decided that I'd have to schlep all of what I thought I was and start fresh. I'd have to rebuild a new identity. Not one that was the world-traveling businesswoman with the house and the career and everything, but a new person, the one that I knew that I wanted to be, who was compassionate, kind, and connected. But I had no clue how to do that. I just knew I needed to let go. So I took a year off. I sold my house. I moved in with my sister. So I don't know if you know this, but one of the things that they teach children, that if you're ever lost in the woods, the number one thing that you can do is just be still. Don't try to go anywhere. Let people find you. So that's what I did. I rested. I stopped fighting. I realized I'm lost, and I just need to be found. That means sitting with the pain and the discomfort as much as you can. Don't worry if you have other distractions and coping mechanisms. Those don't stop. And that's all right. That's what we need to do. But looking back on that year, I sort of laugh because I said, I did not accomplish a lot that year. And yet I did. I did a little consulting here and there, but I mostly played video games. That was my coping mechanism. But I also did other things to help me with sitting in that discomfort and being lost. Because after acceptance, then comes curiosity. So here are some things that you can do. You can ask for directions, right? You can sing out, "Hello, Daisy, are you there?" I just kept asking the question over and over and over to myself and even to other people, what's going on? What's happening here? Where am I going? Where am I now? I just put it out there. Put it out there to your God, to your subconscious, whatever you think of. It's working on it. But you have to keep asking the questions. Talk to people. Try articulating it. Sometimes just processing it out loud will help. You can seek help or therapy. I went to so many different therapy groups, can I tell you? And I read just about every self-help book out there. I call myself the self-help queen. Everything I could possibly think of. And in fact, I read a lot of the mystics because I knew that they had been through this before. I heard about this dark night of the soul. I thought, this must be what I'm going through. I remember when I was reading them, I was like, I'm looking for the shortcut.
Yeah.
Right? I remember thinking, I don't really have to go through this. Really, I don't. I'm sure there's a way. There's a shortcut through this. If there is, I haven't found it. Sorry. I finally just realized I had to go through it. The other things I did is I tried to explore different things. Like, okay, if I wasn't going to be in the business world, what was that? And I did all sorts of things. I volunteered at a theater. I took classes on all sorts of different things, from jewelry making to whatever. I mean, I think I even took a class on how to be a psychic, because I thought, well, I remember it felt a lot like being in a maze, right? But there's no lights. And so you're just sort of feeling your way along the edges. And you come to dead ends and you go, okay, that's not where I'm going, and you have to backtrack, and you have to try a little bit more. And eventually you start seeing a light. Just a little light is like, okay, I'm headed in the right direction. Just maybe keep going that way. And the third thing is to just sort of go with the flow. Follow that stream. Trust that it will happen. Like, I remember, this was actually a very profound moment for me in my life, was that I had moved back from Australia to Boston, and was living in Boston, and again, I'm miserable. I'm just not enjoying. The job was perfectly fine. There was nothing wrong with the job. I just was dissatisfied with my life and what was happening to it. And I remember talking to my friend Zach, and I said, I just feel like I'm trying to go up a raging river. I'm trying to fight against a raging river. And I remember he just looked at me and he said, well, what if you just went with the flow of the river? What if you just floated down the river instead of trying to fight walking up it? And for some reason, that was sort of like this profound thought for me. Like, what would I do if I just went? If I gave up this identity of who I thought I was, and I went in whatever direction that the river was taking me? And I knew that at that time I was like, Okay, I moved back to Seattle, and I wanted to connect more with that compassion. I didn't know quite what that meant. But suddenly I felt this sense of relief. Yeah, what if I just flowed with the river? Where would it take me? Now, there's one more thing that you can do when you're in this state, and you realize you're lost, and you want to move forward. Now, this is Sean's answer to everything, but it's true. Love, right? The number one thing I can tell you is love yourself. Be kind. Put on some bunny slippers. Rest. Be compassionate for yourself. You're going through a really hard time. These happen. Watch your self-talk as well. That's another one that comes up. You start beating yourself up. Why am I not more engaged? Why is this not happening? And know that you're not alone. As a matter of fact, you could be sitting next to someone right now who's going through something like this. We don't talk about it that much, right? And then, when you also love yourself, reach out and give love to others. Reach out to those in need. Getting out of your own misery in your own head is really important. And you start discovering that what is important is loving the world, and that it will save you. And Groundhog Day, well, Phil in the movie finally realized that he has a choice to make. He can continue to spiral down, or he can become the person he wants to be. Not for Rita, the love interest in the movie, but for himself. And as he looks around, he realizes that he can't help the people in the town of Punxsutawney that he knows now so well. Since he knows exactly when and where bad things will happen, he can be there for them. So, for example, he stops a man from choking. He helps elderly women with a flat tire. He saves a young man from falling out of a tree. He even makes Ned Ryerson's, the insurance man's day, by buying every kind of insurance he can possibly buy. And he learns to play the piano. He learns to be a doctor and diagnose things for people. Now, he's still Phil. He's still sometimes sort of snarky, but he has this different feel. He cares for people. He's kind. He's genuine to all of those around him. And of course, this is when Rita falls in love with him. When Phil realizes that he has a lot to give the world, or at least the town of Punxsutawney, that he becomes the person that he's always wanted to be. He's happy. He's found the real him, who he was meant to be. And that's when he's finally free. I hope this is not a, spoiler for you all. He's finally free, and February 3rd, the next day, finally happens. I love that he decides to stay and live in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. So giving back, helping others, connecting with people, these are the signs of love. And getting to that place doesn't happen overnight, but it is how we become found. As the choir sang today, if you only look around, you will be found. You are not alone. We think sometimes that we have to do this alone, that no one can help us, but the reality is that people all around you are willing to help. For Phil, there was Rita, there was Larry, the whole town was there for him to help him become the person that he could be. All of them were his teachers. And for me, I had many teachers, including my sister who took me in. I had therapists, I had friends who stood by me. I had the movie Groundhog's Day. I had all sorts of things. People don't have to understand to be good teachers for you. And when I'd asked enough times for help, when I finally found out what I'd been longing to find, I kept putting out there, where am I headed? Where am I going? And that's when I found Unitarian Universalism. And it's a place where I could be this person I always wanted to be. It's where I found my connection to Spirit, to the Spirit in each one of you. It's a place that taught me to be the importance of putting love out into the world. I was not very active prior to becoming a Unitarian Universalist. And this is in part what saved me, what made me be found. I joined the church and began reaching out and helping other people. I taught classes. I joined the pastoral care team and began to live the life I hadn't even at first realized that I wanted to live. I began taking an interest in the world and helping love fight the good fight, whether it was LGBTQ rights or criminal reform, or environmentalism. Sometimes you find yourself by helping and connecting with others. It's a strange kind of truth. We hear it a lot out there. And until you've experienced it, you might not go like, okay, that was nice. But it's a strange kind of truth. We become who we are, not by being alone, but by how we care and connect with other people. We really can't become in isolation. Now, people being people, they decided that they wanted to estimate how long did it take Phil to become who he was in this movie. And its range is anywhere from 34 years of living the same day over again to 360 years the same day over and over again in order to get to this state of happiness. Now, didn't take me that long, but it was a few years. Honestly, it was a few years, and it was really rough. So it can take a while. And try stopping looking for the shortcut, because there isn't one. That took me a while. It's one of the things I learned finally from all of the mystics is just that the only way through it is through it. Right? And so what is it like to feel found? That sense of release of knowing, finally I knew where I was headed. Ministry, awesome. That was great. I found the person that I wanted to be, a compassionate, connected person. I'm headed in the right direction. Surrounded by love, all those things. That, my friends, I believe, is the feeling of grace. It's when we know we are being held in a love and we can rest in that love. So when you are feeling lost and alone, sing out to spirit inside of yourself or to the wider world. Sing your soul back home. Entice love to come back to you. And know that in the end, at the end of your journey through this wilderness, know that you are never really lost. You are just waiting to be found. Let us sing.